John Wick is known for its kinetic, realistic, and well-choreographed action. Outside of this top-notch action, there is a reason for the thrilling stakes of John Wick. It's the rules. John Wick creates an exciting world and story by clearly explaining and following simple guidelines. Together we can learn about how the presence and structure of rules helps our stories and creates exciting stakes, and how ignoring or recreating these can begin to destroy a story. Looking at you, MCU. In John Wick, the rules inside the story of the universe the characters live in are clear and well communicated to the audience, and they are followed. The Continental is safe space, no conducting business quote-unquote on the property, and markers require absolute obedience. So for John Wick, you may work as a professional assassin. You can get access to this underground world of weapons, technology, and cleaning up services. You can live in this alternate world, but you must follow the aforementioned rules. One of the best scenes to show this and not just tell us this is seen in John Wick 2. John and Cassian, played by Common, have a fight scene in the streets of Rome which leads them to bursting through a window and into the Roman Continental. They cease fighting immediately. No conducting business. And the two, who moments prior were literally trying to kill each other, sit down and have a drink. In regard to the story, this gives us an unexpected break from the action, a chance for dialogue and character development. It's a welcome and clever change of pace. This also reminds us of the rules. At the end of the movie, when John does break the rule and conducts business at the Continental, it feels more impactful. We understand the consequences. He is now excommunicado and he no longer has access to the assassin's world and resources, not to mention a very large contract on his head. Rules create stakes, they create consequences. Boundaries are dramatic and fun. As the story ebbs and flows, it's dictated by the rules created. This story told and showed the audience how the cinematic universe operates, then it followed the terms it set out. The creators of John Wick are hardly the first to see the importance of this idea. G.K. Chesterton discusses a similar concept in his Doctrine of Conditional Joy. He proposes that classic stories such as fairy tales are held together by the following formula. You may have X if, that's the key word, you don't do Y. You may live in the palace of gold and sapphire if you do not say the word cow. Or you may live happily with the king's daughter if you do not show her an onion. Chesterton's examples are silly but effectively emphasize his point. A quote from him. In the fairy tale, an incomprehensible happiness rests upon an incomprehensible condition. A box is opened and all evil flies out. An apple is eaten and the hope of God is gone. The boundary may at first seem ridiculous, but the reason it's there must be significant, and the consequences of rebellion serious. And Chesterton was not alone. Tolkien was drawn to this principle in building the backstory of Numenor in the Second Age.
Then, of course, will always come a seemingly meaningless band, like the fruit of the tree of evil. Lewis used the same thing in his Perelandra. Their ban was they mustn't sail west. They did. But,
hence the ultimate downfall.
It then became an intellectual. We lived then only in memory. It lived in time, but not present time. And of course, Numenor was drowned, and the earthly paradise.
Numenorians were explicitly told not to sail west. When they did, it led to their destruction. Pandora's box is similar. Don't open the box. That's the key rule. And as referenced by Chesterton, Adam and Eve's story hinges on the prohibition of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A simple rule when the rest of the garden is available, with the consequences of original sin as a result. Whereas John Wick, Chesterton, and Tolkien see the importance of boundaries and respects them, we are beginning to see stories that choose to ignore them, and by so doing, they are perhaps losing their audience, or at least the audience is not taking the story seriously. Like the boy who cried wolf, they no longer believe the liar. They no longer buy into the stakes the storytellers are attempting to create. We can see this clearly in the MCU multiverse. The rules are unclear, or we can say flexible in the MCU multiverse. If one character dies in a singular universe, who cares, we can use another. There are many variations of Kang or Doctor Strange or even Iron Man. Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther 2, even confirmed this lack of stakes to actress Angela Bassett. After being frustrated with her character's death, Coogler reportedly told her, "Angela, I know, but look, to die is not really to die in this world. It doesn't really have to mean that." So the fans might be asking themselves, this means nothing? Great. When you have no rules or unenforced rules, this creates apathy. Nothing matters, just inconsequential events. There is no direction to action when there are no consequences, good or bad. Don't worry about showing an onion to the king's daughter. It didn't count this time. No problem, Adam and Eve. God was just bluffing. The reality of the universe is destroyed when the consequences are not real. Here, I'll issue a warning to the MCU, or maybe it's a plea to the writers. One of the most impactful and meaningful moments in the MCU is Tony Stark's sacrifice. If you bring back Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, it will lessen the moment. It will ruin what they have already created. Please do not destroy the great moments in the past MCU for a cheap thrill in the present. John Wick succeeds by creating its own doctrine of conditional joy in a relatively small cinematic universe and by following the rules. Storytellers can learn from this, and the audience can too. Our actions have consequences. Our decisions affect us and the world around us. We do not live in a silo. We live in a world of many rules. Our sin, our virtue extend outward. The boundaries of life and morality create order in a chaotic world, yet they also enliven creativity. If everything is possible, then nothing will be done. If there are no rules, there are no stakes. If there are no boundaries, then there are no boundaries to be pushed. If there is no morality, there is no transformation. If there are no real consequences, there are no real choices. And if there are no rules, there is no story.